celebrating a company's birthday during the summer has always been my favorite. However, this year my perspective shifted. I was part of a successful sales firm, with multiple offices across the country, allowing us to have significant revenue. As a result, our birthday parties were extravagant affairs that extended beyond just the employees. It was a grand celebration open to all employees and their families, almost like a family vacation. This year was particularly special as it marked our firm's 10th anniversary, prompting employees from various regions to join the festivities. My wife Mary and I were joyfully gathered around an elegantly set table, sharing laughter with colleagues from different offices. But as the evening unfolded, I excused myself to find my department colleagues, wanting to personally inform them about the well-deserved bonus plan for them. Though I was only away for a short while, upon my return I couldn't locate Mary in the same spot she had been before. Surprisingly, this did not concern me at that moment. She had created her own connections and friendships within our work community. Our marriage was relatively recent, barely reaching 3 years, and for some reason my family had initially been against our union. Mary, who was 5 years younger than me, seemed unaffected by the conversations happening around us. We eventually got married and found happiness together. Fortunately, my salary allowed my wife to work only half a day, and this was the case for the wives of my colleagues as well. Mary and the other wives quickly became friends, so it wasn't surprising when I found her near the pond about 40 minutes later. Worriedly, I approached her and held her tightly, but she didn't respond to my embrace. Confused, I asked her what was wrong. With her gaze fixed on the water, she quietly said, "I don't feel well, let's go home." I couldn't understand why she wanted to leave, as the day had just begun. "Are you serious? It's only just begun," I protested. "Mike, I really don't feel well," she insisted. Although she seemed physically fine when I checked her temperature, I noticed she was a little pale. "Maybe it's just the heat getting to you. Come on, let's go inside," I suggested, to which she nodded and slowly walked away. Her behavior was strange, but the intense heat and the alcohol everyone had consumed made everything feel eerie. Throughout the day I called Mary periodically to check on her well-being. By evening she had joined me, appearing more alert and cheerful. "Everything all right?" I asked her with a smile. She replied, "Just fine," and leaned in to kiss me. The rest of the evening was filled with lively enjoyment, and we didn't part ways until well past midnight. This June had been unusually hot, sweltering. Even as I tossed and turned in bed, unable to sleep, I eventually drifted off abruptly. I was jolted awake as if someone had pushed me. To my surprise, Mary was no longer there beside me. When I looked into the shower, I found it empty too. Assuming that my wife had decided to take a swim in the nearby pond, I didn't mind, especially since it was deserted. Taking a towel, I leisurely made my way to the small gazebo on the shore. Faint sighs came to my ears, gradually growing louder as I approached. Not wanting to disturb the couple, I decided to turn away before I heard the voices. "Mary, you're still as stunning as ever," the man said, stumbling over the words the woman muttered. "Oh, don't be silly." I immediately realized that it was indeed my wife's voice, and it was no accident. Taking a few more steps, I saw a startling sight. There was a man lying prostrate on the sand, and on him was Mary, my wife, the very woman who had sworn her love and fidelity to me. "What that?" I interjected, interrupting their rendezvous. Mary looked in my direction and, hastily covering herself with a towel, let out a piercing scream. I couldn't keep from laughing ridiculously as the man slowly rose from the ground and took a step toward me. A fight was the last thing I wanted, but a moment later he was standing there, clutching his nose, trying to stop the blood. Mary hurriedly joined me, trying to pull away from him. Pushing her away, I withdrew, feeling empty in my head. Intoxicated and indifferent, I gathered my things, got into my car, and drove toward the mountains. I paid no attention to how my wife would find her way home. She came back towards evening. She was brought back by the corporate bus. I didn't know what she had told her coworkers, but no one inquired as to the reason for my absence. "Mike, please listen. Talking to this woman was uncomfortable for me, but I knew it was easier to Listen to her, you have to understand it. Didn't mean anything at all, it's just that he's my first, and then I moved to Atlanta and met you and got married and never told him anything. Everything is so terribly messed up. He was planning to come back to me, even took a job at your firm with the hope of transferring to the capital, and 5 years later our paths unexpectedly crossed. Again, Mary explained. Lad, I indignantly replied, so according to you I can sleep with any of my exes just because we had a nasty breakup? I couldn't resist a smirk. No, not at all, she quickly backed away from her argument. I'll put it simply, Mary, the first don't want to see you anymore, and I believe we'll be divorced soon. You can leave now and go back to your old life, I told her firmly. Wait, Mike, she pleaded, but I didn't listen to her. When I got home 2 hours later, she wasn't there. I had hoped she wouldn't show up for the divorce proceedings, but she showed up trying to convince me to drop the idea. Can't your lover take you? And I said with a sneer I had no interest in her personal affairs, but it was necessary to shut her up. Somehow he has a wife and 2 children, Mary muttered, looking away. She didn't say another word, and I breathed a sigh of relief. I ended up quitting my job. The story didn't spread around the office, or at least I didn't hear anything anyway. I didn't want to work there anymore. Eventually I met a coworker who I got along well with, and our wives were friends. During one of our conversations, he shared an intriguing story. You got divorced just in time, my coworker told me. Your Maria tried to blackmail a man into supporting her financially by threatening to expose him to his family, but he chased her away. I just chuckled and made no comment. I expected nothing good from this woman, for she had traded a stable life for a fleeting encounter